This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Well, what brought you back to the WWE in 2016?
I feel like I was kind of done wrestling. I was thinking about whether I was going to retire. I'd had Donovan. Nick's career was really he was kind of cultivating and really starting to kick off on his career. And I felt like I'd had such an amazing career at that point that maybe it was time for me to just sit back and let him go and let him shine. And then I could raise my son. I hadn't been home in a long time, and I could start focusing on other things of not just being there for him, but also my horses and, the music, but also just kind of maybe a normal life, and what was next. And I'd done some tryouts as far as I toyed with being a coach at NXT. I talked about coming back to Impact, but it really wasn't in my heart because I felt like I didn't really know, I'd had a weird angle when I left there the last time. It was James Storm killed me off and pushed me in front of a train. And there was just weird things, a lot of weird things was happening there. And I was I'm just not feeling it. I said, I think I'm just going to retire and just kind of do it up. And then that's when it's just ironic because that's when they called me about coming in for a one-off. Hunter called me about coming in for the one-off against Asuka. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been praying for a perfect little button on my WWE career because I felt like I had unfinished business there and I didn't love the way that I left. This is the perfect little, before I retire, the perfect little button, the perfect little send off. And I was in England. We were actually headed to England when I got the call, when we kind of started making the plans and stuff. And and I just took the opportunity because I wanted that button. I wanted that little bow to kind of go okay, this is my send off from WWE. Now I can kind of wrap up the package and it's good and it's fine. And I trained my ass off for that. And I wanted to, because I knew Asuka was the girl that they were going to be pushing soon to the moon. And they were already pushing her huge. She was undefeated at the time. And I wanted to just deliver for myself because I was coming back from having Donovan and as a wrestler. And I'd only been really doing a few independents at that point and signings. And so I wanted them to see me as, Mickie James, the Mickie James that they remembered as much as possible, and to give Asuka a hell of a match. And that was my ultimate goal. And that's kind of what we did. But then they asked me out of that if I wanted to come back full time. And I was like, we had just
ready for that question, huh?
Yeah. What are you going to say? No. And the weird thing is because I had started to plan for retirement mode, we had just up and moved to Florida, away from all my family. So I was going to be more at home with D, and Nick was going to be traveling more, obviously, with NWA and with everything that he was doing. But I would still do signings and appearances here and there, but it was just more kind of, and I'd move the horses down there and everything. And then they call me back and
you had to move back home, right?
It lasted a year because Nick had to take over when I was on the road. Cause you know how involved the WWE schedule is. He started having to clean the stalls every day for me and stuff like that. And he's like, this is not what
he's shoveling shit now. You're back to wrestling.
What the? I didn't
your horses, Mickie, your horses.
This is horse shit.
Well, listen, you said you wanted to put a bow on it. Mickie, you took the bow and you untied that bow. You wrestled Asuka at NXT and it segued right into the main roster with you and a few with Alexa Bliss. Your career is completely rejuvenated at this point, right?
I know. It's insane. It's insane. It was cool. And it was cool because Alexa was to be aligned with Alexa because I knew that they had big plans for her, and she's so fun. And she was, she was really cool. It was fun to work with her. And I feel like she was very open to just different things for me and ideas and just my input. But it was also, I think that she has a whole different audience than myself because it's a younger demographic and very in that cosplay kind of thing, which is not my wheelhouse or realm at all. So it was to see our personalities and just a old school versus new school kind of team up. It was different because they hadn't done it. And it was fun. It was fun. And we had a lot of fun. And I just enjoyed, it's the locker room for me, and it's the boys and the girls there. And I felt like I was just taking every moment because it was something that I didn't think was going to happen, as a blessing, and just enjoying it for what it was and for however long it lasts, because I'm like, you know, I had hoped for, and I wish in hindsight that I would have pitched more, try to push more for the hardcore country character, because it was something that I brought up there that they just never really understood or bid on. But it's almost like a blessing in disguise, because had they bid on it, I probably wouldn't have been able to come back and do this thing at the Rumble and it go down the way it had. So everything happens for a reason, you know.
You're absolutely right, Mickie.
You know.
Did you know when you first got in the ring with her that Becky Lynch would be the star she is today?
You know, yes, and I would say yes and no. You know how some people just have a quality about them that is so unique and so different. And I remember when I saw her, when I went down for a guest spot.
You mean her accent?
Yeah, yeah. Well, she was doing the obviously the last kicker and stuff when I first came up there, but she's just morphed into a mega star now, and it's crazy to see. And it's crazy to see a woman in that position, which is awesome. So kudos and hats off to her, because it's freaking cool. But I remember seeing her at NXT back when I went down there just for like a training camp thing, where I was as a guest coach for like 2 weeks or something. And I was like, I kind of saw it then, and like, this girl really has something. But she was just new there, and she was like brown hair and completely different than what she looked like now. But she just has like a certain charisma about her. And there's sometimes these like little things like that, like you just can't teach. So people just have it or they don't. And you can kind of see that spark in their eye, or that spark in what they do, that they were meant for something, you know. And yeah, it's cool though. I think it's what a phenomenal kind of thing to be able to do, is to be the catalyst of like really looking at. It's one thing when you're Ronda Rousey, and I love Ronda, don't get me wrong. It's one thing when you're Ronda Rousey and you're walking in here and you're being leveled up to being the top star, because you are a top star in your own right, because you've busted your ass in this other thing. It's another thing to see, especially as a woman, to step up and be seen in that top star kind of bracket through the wrestling world, through what we do, you know, because it's a
lot of hard work, and she had to earn it, right?
It's a rarity for male or female to level up to that kind of bracket. It's a rarity. So to see her be able to do that, and to do it for, you know, the girls, it's pretty freaking cool. And I'm always going to support my ladies and lift them up. So, you know, plus she just had a baby, and what in the entire hell? I'm so mad right now. Like, you know, I worked hard. I felt like it took me an entire pregnancy to get back to where I felt halfway decent in a pair of spandex. But I saw her at the
in
Rumble.
a few months, right?
Unbelievable. I'm irritated about it. I'm irritated at Rhonda about it. I said, it's been 4 months and she came back and she looks incredible too. And I'm like, I still felt like I looked pregnant 4 months after. So
they're a different breed, Mick.
I know. Unbelievable.
Well, let's talk a little bit about you and Kurt Angle. You were drafted to Raw when Kurt was GM, and he immediately named you the #1 contender. Kurt, that was nice of you.
He loves me.
He's my girl.
I'll tell you what, you're taking care of her. And you took on Bliss for the women's title at TLC. Were you happy to see the WWE take the Divas name off the title?
Yeah. I know that I think this is a polarizing subject, because there's a lot of people like, oh, they love the Divas title, right? Because it was, but we'll go back to the breakaways. That was my only kind of real negative about the Divas era, is that I got into the business to be a star, and I wanted Mickie James to be a star. And I know it's a selfish business, and I know it seems selfish to say, but I didn't necessarily love all the other girls in the locker room. So I really didn't necessarily care if they were stars too, except for when I had to wrestle them, because you're only as good as the person that you're in the ring with. Right. So, and we all came from different backgrounds, and it was also different because we're all fighting for one position at that thing. There's one title, right? Whereas now there's tag team titles and two titles for each brand and all these things. So it was a lot more competitive, I think. So I was happy yes, I was happy to have the Divas name because I felt like it came with a stigma to those who didn't understand. Like if you are a first time viewer and you're like, oh, they refer to themselves as Divas. Some people liked it, some people didn't, but it also came with the stigma of like, when you think about what the term diva means, it means that you're pretty snooty and stuck up and sure of yourself and you're extra and you need everything on your rider. You're extra, right?
That's right.
Like,
That's right.
And I
You're a
felt
handful.
a lot. You're a lot. And I
Yeah.
felt like that, and then that came the, perception that we were a lot and that we were drama and that we were all these things. And I was like, I just wanted to be one of the boys and to be looked at as equal as one of the boys. So I felt like it just made it that much harder to be seen as one of the boys because you're seen as now one of the divas and you're a diva. And so, but I also recognize the amount of good work the Divas thing did in the sense of the younger demographic and the little girls. Kurt, you're a girl dad. Like it gave little girls something to look up to and aspire to that was marketable and that they could understand and that they were like, I want to be a diva. Like I didn't think about that wrestling brain and even marketing brain until after when I started to, really study business and hone in on that stuff. And I go like, it actually was very marketable. It actually targeted a whole new demographic of the girls who are now wrestlers today because they wanted to be a diva, which is weird to me to say, but that's the reality is a lot of girls that are wrestlers and very good wrestlers today fell in love with it when
they were diva fans. Yeah.
Right. So some people love it, some people hate it, but it did do a lot of good. It really did. And
I feel strongly that saving money is important. If it's not something we worry about now, boy, we are really going to worry about it later. And I want to help you get out of debt faster and do it with cheaper monthly payments. I'm talking to you if you're in a 30-year loan. Now is the time to take years off of your loan. We're routinely helping our listeners cut 5, 10, even 15 years off their loan. And you can do this without perfect credit with no money out of pocket. You've just got to start at savewithconrad.com.
Well, you got the team with Alicia Fox at Evolution to take on Trish and Lita.
Foxy.
What was the feeling like to be on the very first all-women's pay-per-view for WWE?
It was incredible. I think the energy that night was so special because all the girls were so excited that we were going to have this one night. And I think we all had hoped that it would be the start of something really cool. And like whether it was an annual event or something that we could do more often, but we all wanted to prove ourselves as, not only worthy of this one night only kind of thing, but the hopes to prove ourselves that, it would be cool enough to continue to do, and
you being one of the better wrestlers, did you feel a lot of pressure for this pay-per-view?
I certainly did. I think that every woman felt a lot of pressure because we had to deliver because we were finally getting a space that we had asked for.
No safety net.
Yeah. And we all wanted to deliver and we wanted the pay-per-view to deliver. Because we wanted to be able to do it again. And the only way we're going to be able to do it again is if this was a massive success and if every girl went out there and treated it like WrestleMania. And that's what we did. I felt like every single match, like we just went out there and gave it our all. And it was so fun. And I was grateful to not only open the show because, the opening spot is I either want to be first or last,
Vince
first or last.
Once told me the most important spot on the card is the main event. Second most important is the first match of the night.
You set the pace for the rest of the show. So, that's what I've always been told too. It's like you first or last, right? It was so cool and to be able to be in there with, Alexa, who had been on that, since I first came back on the journey with me, but also my friend Foxy, who was my ride or die travel partner and who I adore to pieces, but also against Trish and Lita, who are so, had so much history in my own career, and who means so much to me on a real personal level, like to be able to share that moment with them, with that whole collectively, it was really, really cool. It was really cool. And the crowd was so hot and it was so fun. And we just went out, we just weren't lost in it. You get lost in those. Sometimes in matches, you just get lost in the emotions and the feelings and the people, especially when they're hella hot like that. And that was one of those times.
You forget they're not real.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, it's not real? Wait.
Breaking news here on the Kurt Angle Show. Yeah.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.